you've now made a successful film that fans have been wanting for such a long time and have been begging for, and you finally caved in because people have been begging. Even your star was begging. Very least, you did right by the fans. At least the star of the movie did right by the fans. Now we are in sequel territory. How do we keep this going? How do we keep audiences engaged with how people enjoyed that first movie and continue on? Now that we have a new director this time around, and the same writers from the first movie are returning, and hopefully with that new director we get a different style. Hopefully it can continue on a good path.
It lives up to the hype, plus plus.
Fuck it, they probably won't even make a 3.
Yeah, why would they? Stop it too. You killed it.
Deadpool 2 is directed this time around by David Leitch, who would go on to do Bullet Train, and this year The Fall Guy, which I really enjoyed, and written by Rhett, Reese, Paul Wernick, and Ryan Reynolds joining the writing team. Film stars Ryan Reynolds, Josh Brolin, Morena, Baccarin, Julian, Dennison, Zazie, TJ Miller, Brianna, Hildebrand, and Jack Kesy. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, foul-mouthed mutant mercenary Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, assembles a team of fellow mutant rogues to protect a young boy with abilities from the brutal time-traveling cyborg Cable. Deadpool was a commercial and box office success for 20th Century Fox. They took a gamble, they actually caved in and actually gave fans what they were asking for, and it turned out to be a success for them. For a budget that was under $60 million, they made their profit back twice over. At the very least in its first weekend, if I remember correctly, they made a lot of money from that. And people couldn't get enough of Deadpool, especially Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds loves this character. He has bragged about how much he loves it. And I don't mean brag in a bad way. I'm saying he has talked about playing this character so much that he loves it. At the end of the first film, if people remember, Deadpool teased a certain character that fans, mostly Marvel readers, would know more of, but fans were excited to see. Don't remember, here's what he said.
The sequel, we're gonna have Cable. Amazing character. Bionic arm, time travel. We have no idea who we're going to cast yet, but it could be anybody. Just need a big guy with a flat top.
That's right, Cable. X-Men fans were excited at the prospect that their favorite time-traveling mutant would finally make his big screen debut. So when it was announced that Josh Brolin would be playing Cable, and it's kind of funny to think about because at the same time that movie was released, Infinity War came out. And so you had Josh Brolin just having the best summer he's ever had because he had 2 back-to-back hits the same month, which is crazy, but good for him. I mean, he struck gold with the movie choices he had. When it was released back in 2018, I actually thought it was better than the first film. I actually thought that, wow, they improved upon things, and I actually liked this better than the first. And I still believe that. I still think this is actually better than the first movie. I don't hate that first film, but compared to the second, I actually prefer the second one than the first movie. There are a few problems with this film that does hold it back for me, but here are the positives I saw. The performances, they are funny across the board. Ryan Reynolds is still hilarious as Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool. Reynolds continues to play Wilson as wacky and zany that he brought to the first film. Reynolds just naturally knows how to play this character with ease. Like I said in the Deadpool 1 review, Reynolds was pretty much tailor-made for this role, and he has shown how much he loves this character, because throughout this movie, he still brings the same energy as the first one. It doesn't feel like he's sleepwalking or slacking off. He really brings it his all this time around again, and he still continues that same energy and passion that he has for this character. Josh Brolin is ferocious and tough as Cable. Brolin brings a balance of seriousness and comedy, because seriousness in what his backstory is and who Cable is as a person, but he does bring a little bit of levity out, but really near the end of the movie he does. But he brings comedy to a character that is tragic in a way that almost feels like a parody. It's a parody on how he's playing this, and it's really hilarious. But at the same time, I mean, I won't deny there are moments where he can be scary and he can be serious, but at the same time, Brolin just looks like he's having a ton of fun playing Cable in this movie. Both Reynolds and Brolin are a perfect foil for each other. Reynolds' zaniness and Brolin's seriousness combined makes for a fun time. Reynolds and Brolin, they just work well in the scenes that they're in, whether it be them fighting each other or cursing at each other or making fun of one another, they are the best part about this movie because of how much Ryan Reynolds and Josh Brolin just got to riff off of one another and how they insult each other in so many ways. But every sequence that they're in this movie, it's hilarious and it's a ton of fun. Morena Baccarin is still seductive and caring as Vanessa. Baccarin still knows how to balance the humor that Ryan Reynolds brings, but bring the heart with it, her being caring and pretty much bringing out the goodness in Wilson, because it really truly shows how much she does bring that goodness out of him and how much that Wade really loves her and she loves him. Both Reynolds and Baccarin are still adorable and loving together. They know how to have great chemistry on screen. They just play off each other so well that I still buy their relationship. There's not a moment where everyone feels out of character or it just feels like they're phoning in. Their on-screen chemistry works well because of how much they have to show the comedy of each other, but really the heart of one another, and how much her impact of the movie brings it out of Deadpool. Julian Dennison is rambunctious and naive as Russell Collins, aka Fire Fist. Dennison also knows how to meet the comedy aspect with everyone in the film, but there's a bit of emotion with him too, with what his character has gone through. Both Reynolds and Dennison are good together and are in sync with one another. They have a rocky relationship, but in the end, they work well when they are on screen with each other because they do feel like they just know what they're going for and how they're trying to present themselves. There is a very heartwarming message in this film and what Wilson does for Russell. Zazie Beetz is precise and deadly as Domino. Beetz is just so charming and bubbly with every interaction that she has, especially with Wade Wilson. Zazie Beetz just knows how to bring a lot of that energy, but it's just so adorable at the same time. Both Reynolds and Beetz are hysterical together. They have good comedic banter with each other, especially when he's interviewing her for the X-Force, and their banter in that was just so cute, but also so funny. And then, of course, there's another one involving Convoy trying to get Russell, trying to protect him, and their little interaction on comms. I thought that was really good. It really shows how much that these two do work well together if they ever get another chance to be in another film in the future. T.J. Miller is still hilarious as Weasel. Miller still brings his dry, sarcastic humor that he brought from the first film, just like how he was Miller. He knows how to be sarcastic and how to be a dick a lot of the times, and I think he just does that so well. Now, this was around the time when personal things about Miller started to come out, so I understand this was right around the time when allegations against him were starting to talked about, and that is a problem. But I will admit, in this movie, I can't deny he is funny. I can't deny that or lie about that. Like the first film, both Reynolds and Miller still know how to riff off of one another. It may be their last time working together, but it was still nice to see them still have that good banter with each other, even if it was for one last time, because we all know Miller will never come back. I still appreciate seeing their dynamic in the movie. The direction is slick. Director David Leitch crafts an engaging and action-packed sequel that keeps the excitement going for a professional stuntman, because yes, David Leitch is and has been a stuntman for a very long time. Leitch knows his stuff. He knows how an action movie should look, how it should feel, how the energy should be brought, because he's had a career in doing that. And Leitch just brings it all through his movie, and it feels completely different from Miller's. It doesn't feel like his at all. It feels like David Leitch, his own voice, but not dissing on what Miller had done with the previous movie, but just continuing on in his own way, but in a way that doesn't feel like it tarnishes anything. It does feel like a continuation of the first film in his own style, and how he positions characters in action sequences, I think, is done tremendously. The action is exciting. Each action scene has so much energy and passion for how intense they are going for it. Leitch is just having a fun time on how the action is positioned, how it's framed, and how well the action is supposed to be. Because of his years of experience, he does that very well, and I found the action to be quite exciting and very brutal and very bloody in all the right ways. The writing, again, is sharp. Rhett, Wernick, along with Reynolds, still know how to capture Deadpool's humor and crass nature. With Reynolds' contribution to the script, he's fully embraced Deadpool in his own way, shows his love and dedication to this character, and they both just know what makes people like Deadpool. They continue to do that in a very good way and just still bolster who Deadpool is. The cinematography is stunning. Cinematographer Jonathan Seal shoots a visceral and intense film that keeps the action at bay. It feels different than the first film, just like how Leitch directing style is different from Miller's. Seals feels different from Ken Sung, and how he directed that film, and how that movie felt like really much like a comic book. This feels more like an action-oriented film. It doesn't feel like how the last movie was. It feels completely different. It has its own style and vibe to it, and I think that it's a good way from differentiating the different films. The music is great. Composer Tyler Bates makes a score that blends the action and humor very well. Once again, just like with the first movie, the licensed music fits perfectly with the Merc with the Mouth. I feel like Deadpool is kind of akin to Guardians, but it is his own styling. But composer Tyler Bates, I think, does a good job of still carrying on what Tom Hildebrand brought with that first movie, with the comedy and the action. And he still does that, but he intensifies it in a way that doesn't feel like it's playing safe. It really does feel like it's amplified. Again, the licensed music just fits perfectly with what Deadpool is supposed to be. The story is fun. Seeing Wilson trying his best to protect this troubled kid from a time-traveling cyborg made for an entertaining sequel. For me, it's an improvement over the first, because my problem nowadays, especially watching the first movie, was that it felt generic because it was still very much a origin story on how Deadpool became who he was. And now that we got that out of the way, I am glad to see them actually do something fun now that he is full on Deadpool and actually doing stuff that isn't origin-esque. It feels like he's going out there doing who he is and what he's good at, which is killing people, but showing this time around that Deadpool does bring a little bit of heart to it, as much as he is comedic and as much as he can be an asshole. What Vanessa brings out of him is the emotion of who he is and what he's trying to be with protecting Russell from Cable, and I found that to be a very interesting take with the sequel. The production is crazy, with a higher budget this time around. I think it was now this time around $110 million. It allowed for more bigger action sequences to occur. Aside from the action, the costumes, props, and sets are terrific. They made sure that everything in this movie felt akin to the X-Men and to Deadpool, blending it all well, but not in a way that felt how you would think a sequel would do. It just blends it well enough to where it's still a good continuation, and I think the production quality of it is very good and very much showing how much they spent that money well enough. An improvement, but there is still some issues that are kind of a little bit holding me back from saying that this is a perfect Deadpool movie. So here are my negatives with it. The visuals, like the first, can still kind of vary in certain points. Sometimes the CGI can be alright, but most of the time it can be very distracting and not looking good at all. And that's kind of disappointing to see, because the first movie's budget I can kind of excuse, because that is lower budget than this. And while I do praise the production side of things, can't say the same with the CGI in here, because especially looking at Juggernaut, which I guess some people could say is an improvement over X-Men The Last Stand's Juggernaut, at the same time, it is very distracting and can be very corny and very hokey in how it all looks. The X-Force subplot is kind of played like a joke. The moment they introduced this group, the more the subplot meant kind of nothing in the movie, because they were just kind of a throwaway. I know that's in the plot synopsis, but really they're a throwaway. It's really Deadpool trying to protect this kid. And though funny, it's just ultimately pointless. There's just no point of this subplot being in here, because it just doesn't serve that much of the plot other than just jokes. And they're funny, but again, they just don't mean much. I think it's an improvement over the first. Everything is sharper and exciting. Besides the visuals and the X-Force subplot, it's a blast from beginning to end. I still think, to me, this is my favorite story of Deadpool, and I do think that this does outshine for me the first film. And that's not necessarily saying the first movie's bad, it's just I'm glad that a sequel can improve upon its first movie and do it in a better way. So I'm gonna give Deadpool 2 an 8 out of 10. I think it is a great time. I think it is a good follow-up to the first movie, and it still keeps fans enjoying and entertaining the Deadpool vibes, and still enjoying what Ryan Reynolds and co. still throw at audiences with this character. So now I will be giving my review for Deadpool Wolverine, and July can be over. We can be done. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.